Welcome to the Numbers Game. I'm Jason and I'm joined with Nick and Marty. How are we going today, guys?
Going well, thanks, Jace. Another exciting episode. This morning, I have been talking to clients about their self-managed super funds. Can you believe that? And buying property in self-managed super funds. The banks are screwing people. 9.5% the major banks are charging. And there's other lenders out there that'll do, 6.9 to 7.2. Take note, audience. I know I'm off the bat here straight away, but I go, this is like on a $750,000 property, people are saving $20,000 with other lenders, and the major banks have just lost appetite in that area. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not discounting their clients' rate. So if you have purchased a property through yourself, each super fund, please call Innovate, because we're saving people loads of money. So sorry to rip into that, but I'm just fired up because I've had a few conversations this morning and clients didn't know what they didn't know. So, yeah. Anyway, so I'm good. Nick, how are you?
No, I'm going well. No, we're kicking on in the year and, getting ready for some warmer weather, and it's all starting to come at us. It's good. Sun's shining into the boardroom here. Just loving it. But I'm glad you brought that up, Marty, because I think one of the things I've found in the past is a lot of people are not aware that you can actually refinance a super fund loan.
That's good.
So, not to go too deep into the territory, but the reality is you can. You just can't refinance a super fund loan to pull equity out to support another purchase. But if you're just simply going from one bank to another with the same loan amount, you can definitely refinance. And to your point, yeah, there is massive savings out there at the moment, because the reality is the banks actually don't want that debt on their books. So not only can you refinance, but the banks will generally not renegotiate with you because they would prefer you leave in a lot of cases. So pick up the phone to Marty V and get on saving. How are you, Jace?
Well, just to be different, not talk about super funds and self-managed super funds, I am good. I was good until one of the team today turned around and asked if they were able to put up Christmas decorations. So look, as I'm a 1st of December guy, we've got a few more months to go, but the fact that people are already even talking about Christmas of December 23, it's got me freaking out a bit, and I just don't know where this year went. It's bizarre. But anyway.
It's a supermarket, isn't it? That's the first sign for me. You see a few things pop up, and you know, okay, Christmas is probably coming. And then when you really know you're done is where you hear Christmas carols playing in the supermarket. Then you know it's game over and it's only time for a holiday. But yeah, starting to see a few things pop up in the supermarket that are making me think that Christmas must be close.
Very close. Well, guys, off the back of talking about super funds, and before we get stuck into an episode where we're going to unpack what is going on in the small business world and how are we going to overcome this with a few different suggestions, this episode is proudly brought to you by the great team at Innovate. So if you do have a self-managed super fund, as Marty said, or if you are looking to refinance, the team at Innovate are the people that you need to go to discuss all of those matters. inovayt.com.au. Get in there, sign up to their online education platform. There's plenty of content gold. And if you want to skip all of that, just book straight in for a consult and see one of the team who are absolute legends who I deal with myself. Nick, what have we got on today?
Mate, today we're going to talk about the heart and soul of the Australian economy. Marty's favourite people in the world, small business people, and the challenges that they're facing today. And look, they've always faced challenges, but I think it's harder now than it has ever been to be a small business owner, whether that be because of just what's happening externally with economics or red tape that's put in place from government. But it's extremely hard to be a small business owner these days, and it doesn't come with, the rewards that it possibly did 10, 20, 30 years ago. There's a misconception that all business owners are rich and make a lot of money because they employ people, very similar to the landlord's misconception, but it's not true at all. So there was a recent report, I read this through the ABC, but the Small Business Matters report, which was recently completed, so being the end of the 2023 financial year. And there was a few things that came out of that I thought were worth discussing, and I thought if we could talk about them today, where some of the bigger issues are, and from there, I'd to pass it over to you guys, being the small business experts, on how we might be able to make it more attractive for people to get involved with small business. There is a diminishing amount of people that want to be small business owners because of this. The Small Business Ombudsman, Bruce Bilson, said only 8% of small business owners were under the age of 30. Compare that to 17% in the 70s. So that's half of the people, less than half of the people in the economy under 30 who are now willing to be small business owners. Small business owners make up 98% as well of Australian businesses. That's a stat you'd be familiar with, Jay. So it's a fair conundrum that we're in, because that's a lot of the economy. And as I said at the start, they are the heart and soul of the economy, whether they're employing people or not. So a few of the things that have come out of this report that are worth discussing. 2 in 5 small business owners made no profit in the last financial year, according to the report. The data also shows 3/4 of small business owners made below average wages. Now, that's a big issue for me. The main reason that's an issue is because you take on so much risk as a business owner. You need to be getting a reward compared to what you would receive if you just went and earned a salary with another business. So that's a big one for me. And the big issue at the moment, which we all know about, but business owners are struggling to find staff. And we're kind of in this perfect storm at the moment, whether it's because of COVID or other factors, but you've got interest rates that have skyrocketed. So the cost for business owners to borrow money and expand their business has gone up. We're looking at it, acquisitions in our own business all the time, and we're doing one at the moment. And one of the things that I'm factoring in now is the interest component of taking on debt. I never used to do that. Not that I didn't factor it in, but it was never a concern. But you now think about it because it's such a significant cost, and it impacts the profitability of the acquisition, or what the acquisition can do for your business. So that's for us, and that's for all businesses that want to progress or expand. You've got increased operation costs. So you've got increased wages. Superannuation is going up. We've got supplies going up. So if you're a cafe or restaurant owner, the price of bread and milk has gone up. So imagine that en masse when you're trying to feed a lot of people. Insurance is absolutely through the roof. Work cover, all these things just keep going up and up and up. So we've got this perfect storm where everything is increasing at once, and it's getting very hard for businesses to be profitable. Jace, before I go on, I'll probably get you to comment, because you're seeing a lot of these people at the moment come in to do their financials. It's around about the time of year where people start to think about that for the previous fin year. Would you back that up based on what you're seeing, that these people are struggling not only to make a profit, but then struggling to make what they could make if they were just working for someone else?
Yep, 100%. Look, the data and statistics generally follows across the board, and we look after close to 500 business groups. So if you just apply the statistics across that, we've got up to 200 of our small business clients that are struggling. Their businesses aren't super profitable. We sometimes have to have those conversations that if you're actually out working on a wage for someone else, you'd probably make more money and have less stress. The cost of running the business is in there as well, as you said, between taxes, GST, pay-as-you-go withholding, superannuation, our favourite payroll tax. There's a lot of red tape and additional stress and things that you've got to worry about being a business owner. But then beyond the couple of hundred at the bottom that aren't doing that well, you then flip to the other end of the scale where you've got some businesses that are excelling and going really, really well. But some of the underlying data that we're seeing, and off the back of Xerocon a few weeks ago, I think we were talking about it in early apps, but a lady presented who was an economist, Louise Southall, and she talked about job vacancies in Australia are 30% up on pre-pandemic levels. So wipe the pandemic out in the middle, go back to before the pandemic happened. Job vacancies from there compared to now, we've got 30% more job vacancies than what we had back then. People can't find employees. There are jobs out there that need to be filled. But then some of the worrying signs around, as you said, inflation and economic growth, we're in a really weird time at the moment where growth is really, really hard. Inflation is killing people. And some of the warning signs that we start to see of small business really starting to struggle is the time it takes to get their invoices paid. So Xero has what's called Small Business Insights. It's a website where they compile the data from all of the Xero files. They've got 3.7 million subscribers that they're able to compile the data from around the world and compare where are people struggling, what size businesses are doing it tough right now, and then also comparing around the world, going, well, actually in the US right now, invoices are being paid way slower than in Australia and New Zealand, as an example. So the US economy might be ahead of where we are from a pain point of view. Then it also talks about cash flow. How is our small business cash flow going? So it's a really interesting website to go and kind of pick apart what's happening in small business territory. And it teaches you a lot about, the broader macro environment. So that's Xero Small Business Insights. But yeah, back to our level, definitely everything you've touched on, Nick, from, 2 in 5 businesses not having profit, and, business owners making below average wages. We see that, definitely statistically across some of our clients for sure.
And we're seeing business owners reach out more than ever in regards to needing, working capital cash flow solutions as well. A lot more inquiry about just short-term business loans, just to get an injection of cash to get through the next 12 months. We're seeing trade finance and debtor finance. Exactly what you said, Jace, based on timings of people paying and getting stock from overseas and locally interstate, and just having better conditions around funding on that, where they were usually funding that through their natural cash flows previously. So we're seeing, again, there's a lot of problems to solve, and there are solutions from a funding perspective where we can help them on those timings and get them through the next 12 months. But I think this is across the board, and I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more too about the businesses that are doing well, and if anyone's seeing a point of difference as to why they're doing well in this environment, because that also gives us some good insight too.
I get your point, Marty, around the funding, and it's great that those options are out there for business owners, but we've still got to get to that core, haven't we?
Correct.
Why are they in that position? And I think the government needs to take responsibility, and there's a couple of points that came up on the report that are worth noting. And the report interviewed some people from the hospitality industry, and obviously we know that's where there's challenges. We've spoken about that in the past, but they talked about the 457 visa holders. So that's students, from what I understand. But students can only work a maximum of students with a 457 visa can only work a maximum of 24 hours per week. So that's just been reintroduced. So during the pandemic, that was vanished, obviously because it was so hard to get labour. But as of July, it's been brought back in. So you had people that were maybe working 30 hours a week, 35, 40 hours a week in a cafe or some kind of hospitality venue that can now only work 24 hours a week. So we've got a labour shortage in this country as it is, and you've now got people in good businesses that are doing good things where the employer is obviously happy with them because they're employing them 40 hours a week, that have now been told they can only work 24 hours a week. Now, that to me just doesn't add up. And I'm sure there's another spin on it, or someone else will have an argument. But when you just look at it from the outside in, these businesses are crying out for people, and the good people that they have, they now have to pull them back to 24 hours a week maximum because of government regulations. The other one is the tax system. We talk about this a lot, and I know we talked about GST and the fact that we need a complete revamp of the tax system, and the increase on GST is a really good way to impact those who are doing better. But this particular business owner that was interviewed in the report was talking about you struggle and you maybe have 2 or 3 bad years, or you earn enough money to get by. You have one good bumper year and you're in the highest tax bracket, and you lose a big chunk of that to tax, and then you're down again. And I know that if you own a company, you can roll your losses on and whatnot, but a lot of people aren't companies. A lot of people are simply sole traders. So, is there a way that we can tax small businesses in a better way so that, they don't get penalised for having one good year out of 5? I know with sports people, you can spread their tax rate over a time period, knowing that, during a certain period of time when they're playing sport, they have a really high earning capacity and then it drops down. So, why tax them on all that money in 1 or 2 years when they've only got maybe 5 or 6 years at that earning capacity? So maybe we could do something similar to that for businesses to make sure that, okay, let's take a long-term approach. Maybe there's some kind of leg up for people that are trying to get into business, trying to get things started. We know how hard it is to start. It's such a big decision to make the jump, number one, because you're going from a salary into a business. What can we do as a government, or what can the government do to make that step a little bit easier? Is there something we can do to encourage people to get in? Because at the moment, the encouragement is not there. As I said, it's kind of hard since the 70s, the number of young people wanting to get into small business. I think our entire system is really built to stomp on entrepreneurs and small business. Anyone that's trying to do well, or anyone that does well, seems to get stomped on and seems to be where the government will then take money from. Well, how do we encourage people that are pushing things forward, people that want to start businesses, people that want to employ people that want to employ people to pay taxes, people that want to employ people to pay their super? How do we encourage these businesses, the ones that are willing to have a crack, to actually have a crack instead of making it too hard and making them not want to do it and just wanting to go and work for someone? So, Marty, I know you've got some ideas on this, or I'm just looking at you. I can tell you've got some ideas on this.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking you make such great points. And the first thing that came up for me was we pay people to be unemployed, right? So we're paying people to be unemployed. So why? There's a lot of business owners that leave a secure job. Everyone's looking for stability in life, a financial foundation to operate from. Why are we not encouraging small? And a lot of small business owners don't pay themselves initially. They'll pay their people before they pay themselves in order to grow the business, because they're looking at future value down the track and future earnings down the track. So why can't we look to encourage and maybe provide a subsidy for business owners to get businesses off the ground? I mean, that's just one initial thought I had, to encourage that level of innovation and entrepreneurialism, because we want a society that backs that and embraces that. I mean, you go to the US, it's a totally different mindset around owning a business to what it is in Australia. So we need to make it a highlight point to want to transition to be that, as opposed to stifling business with really unprecedented taxes and various different issues around it. So that's my initial thought, Nick. I think we need to have something done around that for sure.
It's also around getting money to these businesses, and you brought up the funding side, but it's so hard for businesses in the early stages to get funding. It's almost impossible, really.
Yeah.
And we know how important cash flow and funding is, and we know how slow it is to actually get consistent cash flow into a small business. So, how do we find ways to fund these businesses? Maybe it's a government grant, I don't know, with some sort of, it'd have to be really well thought out, but how do we encourage people to give up a salary, number one, number two, go into business and take on risk, and number three, not hurt them as soon as they get some kind of profitability, through taxes and whatnot. And there's got to be a better way.
Unfortunately, the statistics around a business failing means that if the government did shell out all these government grants for starting a business, all of the T's and C's would be so hard to go, okay, cool, yeah, you get 20, 30, 50, 100 grand, whatever it is. And if you spend it, blow it, waste it, and the business gets shut down, is there any recourse on how that money is somehow kind of recouped? So I think a lot of it comes back to, for me, it's that education around before you start a business, what do you need to know? I think we've touched on it in earlier episodes before as well, is that the reason, there's so many small businesses in Australia, and after 5 years, only 1 in 5 of them typically survive. So, you're looking at a very low percentage of small businesses that survive. So, but then it's also the other side of that. Maybe it was because the funding was so hard to get in the first place as well. But definitely love your point on income averaging though, Nick, like how it's okay for some industries like professional sports people to be able to income average. But you imagine, a small business owner who starts their business and they make 20 grand in the first year, 50 grand in the second year, 70 grand in the third. Then in their fourth year, they have that year that they've been waiting for. They've built the business up and they go and make 500 grand. They're going to lose half of that to tax. Whereas if that was averaged across the first 4 years they ran the business, where they were reinvesting and building up their business, they would pay a much lower marginal average across the board if they're able to use those earlier years where they wasted their tax bracket. So it's a very, very good and very valid point.
Actually, yeah, just to interrupt you, because I'd like to get your opinion on this. And I've actually only just thought about this, but I think, and this is coming from what you spoke about with, okay, you can't give grants out willy-nilly. Understand that, because people will find a way to play the system and will, pocket the money and close up businesses. But I think where there's a big challenge, and we can relate to this, you can get your business going. If you're a good business person, you can get your business going and you can be quite profitable pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. The real challenge is, I think, is in expansion. How do you then expand? Because the reality is, when you're a 1 or 2 person band, you're generally really profitable. But to go to that next level, to start employing people, take on risk, talk about things like paying super and payroll tax, you actually go backwards in most cases. Depending on your business and what kind of business it is, you've got to be prepared to go backwards, for the pot of gold at the end. So I think if there's a way the government can encourage businesses to expand, give them some kind of relief, whether it's tax or whether it's funding. You've got a proven concept. We can see you're a good business. You paid your GST for 2 years. You paid your taxes. You're doing well. You're profitable. You now want to go to the next level and start to expand, which is going to employ more Australians. How can we help you do that? Now, maybe that's something, because I know a lot of businesses don't expand because of that reason. They just can't be bothered with the risk.
Yeah. Not to go back to the zero data from the Small Business Insights, but I'm going to tie it back into what would work from a government funding or a grants or an education point of view. If you're on Xero and you're connected to at least 2 additional apps that help you run your business, you are more likely to be twice as profitable than the business connected to no apps and not working with an advisor. So on Xero, connected to 2 apps and connected to an advisor, like an accounting firm or a BAS agent who helps you with your filing and reporting. If you have all of that, the data shows you're likely to have twice the revenue and up to twice the profit of a business that does not connect to additional apps to run their business or have an advisor or bookkeeper working in their business. So if you then flow that out and go, from a government point of view, how can we give people an incentive to use technology to help empower running their business? So get them to buy extra apps or subscriptions. So let's say that might be Xero with HubDoc to collect all your receipts, and then maybe a practice management system or a CRM to help with your sales pipeline. Or if you're a tradie, it's some kind of building tool that helps you do quoting so that you're getting the quoting for jobs properly. So if you get all of that in place, or if you don't have it in place, a government grant or government incentives that says, if you do this, we'll provide X dollars or get you matched with a mentor or an advisor that will subsidize the cost of. We had a couple of years ago, one of our clients out at Narre Warren running a successful now occupational therapy business. She started as a sole trader, or she was actually started as an employee, then became a sole trader working part-time while working for a hospital, then got this government grant, which was an education grant, but it gave her basically 20 grand in cash that she had to spend on business education and business improvement. So it very dictated T's and C's around how you could spend that money. Now, that particular client went out and spent half of that money with us on a monthly coaching, mentoring, engagement type thing for business improvement, and spent the rest of the money on apps, systems, processes, website. She now employs multiple people and services a huge amount of clients in the Southeast region, but she started off with great education and great foundations of how to run a business properly. So, I mean, I would love to see more business grants that are tailored towards providing some funding, but you have to spend it on education, mentoring, and business improvement in like systems and apps, because the businesses that I've seen do that are way more successful than the ones that are in my portfolio right now that have never had any formal training or mentoring. And you think about it, like if you want to be a great football player or a great, anything, you train, you get a coach. If you want to be the fittest you're ever going to be or be a marathon runner, you do training, you get coaching, you do research. When you start a business, how much education, research, and training goes into registering that first ABN or registering for GST or hiring your first employee? So that for me is, I think, one of the biggest things to be able to turn this around in Australia is putting some kind of formal thing in place that goes, hey, there's a government grant here for you, but it's going to be spent on education and mentoring. And we're going to have the most high performing business owners in our country so that we drive that productivity and performance of Aussie businesses back through the roof.
Couldn't agree more. Education and access to money. And you've just hit them both on the head. You can't get access to money if you don't have good figures. You can't get good figures unless you know what you're doing. So make it easier to access funding and make it easier to get people educated so that they can do the right thing with the funding. And if the funding's there and there's education that is the requirement, people will get educated. I'll do whatever course I have to if the government will give us some money for expansion, that's for sure. So, yeah, great points.
And I think beautifully said. And again, the fact that the government will give first home buyers incentive to get into the property market. Again, what about first time business owners? Exactly what you're talking about. An incentive. Now it might be a cash grant. It might be that they don't pay tax in the first 12 months, but they're taking on these, the mentoring and advisory and various different things. But again, there's got to be some encouragement to support not only the sustainability of that business starting, because otherwise people are trying to save that money. It's like someone trying to save a deposit for a house. They're trying to save that money to go into their business so they've got cash reserves. And I think if you gave them some stability on how that could be accomplished in a unique way, maybe it's the business owner puts in 20,000 and they respond and put in another 20,000, or that comes off your tax for that first year. You're charged at a lower tax bracket. Something and some parameters around it to excel the business like you're talking about. There's got to be smarter ways because this is the lifeblood of Australia and connectivity to the world. It's the biggest employer. It's like we need to be doing more around it. And it really gets people to back their own talents in regards to it with the right support around it. So I think this is pivotal to changing the game, my friends. It's I'm excited. Come on. Can they do something? What about people coming out of school? What about that entrepreneurial path? Like you said, it was 17% in the 70s, and now it's down to 7.5,
8%. It just doesn't.
8%.
There's just no incentive there, mate. It's and not to go down a rabbit hole here, but maybe that's in. It's not just a small business. There's a different drive. People coming out of school are maybe more entitled and maybe would rather work for someone because they don't have the drive to start a business. But if you make the rewards there, maybe they'll find the drive.
I think as well, if you look at the mindset of a lot of business owners that you talk to, how many of them are saying, I love my small business, I love what I've created, I'm really happy right now. So then where I go with that is all of the children that are being raised by small business owners, how many of them are feeling amped about becoming an entrepreneur and a small business owner one day? Or is it the moment where we've got a small business community that are burnt out after COVID? They can't get people to take a job because we've got 30% more job vacancies than what we had pre-pandemic. Governments aren't helping and aren't incentivizing. So if you've got all these external factors that then make a business owner go, this is really hard, I'm not enjoying this, and then we're not walking around talking about how great it is to be a small business owner. What is encouraging or incentivizing our next generation of up and coming, Gen Alpha? What is going to make Gen Alpha want to become a business owner compared to, taking a wage and not taking the risk? So, I mean, look, yeah, it's a difficult one, but they're the kind of things that I think about and go, how do we get the enjoyment back into, running a small business and promoting it like it is something to be proud of?
Couldn't agree more. And you think about, to that point, small business owners that are stressed. What are the conversations they're having at night? What are younger people picking up on? Seeing families go through some, whether it's hardship or whatever it is, or just constantly stressed about small business. Well, of course you're going to look at it and go, well, I'm not doing that. give someone else a problem. I'm going to go get them to pay me and just earn a wage because I saw what my parents went through.
Yeah, I read an article on the weekend. It was something like 67% of business owners are burnt out and either have high anxiety or depression. So I go, not a great marketing tool for the next generation coming through. So again, there's a lot of things in that, I guess, but we need to provide support around business owners in regards to not only from startup phase, but into scale up. Mentors who have done it, who've been there and have done it sustainably, and there's a lot that can be done that's not done. And I think I know the reason. And your kids are always a good indication. It's like we talked about Charlie's coin store. He goes, "Why would I work at Woolworths when I could do something I love and sell a coin and make $40? It just doesn't make sense because I'm doing something I really enjoy." So he gets the spirit of entrepreneurialism because he's creating his own ideas out there in a market that's responding. That's a very basic level, but it's what we want everyone to feel in implementing their own ideas in a unique way that the market's attracted to. How exciting. I've always loved it. I think it's one of the most wonderful things you can get involved in. So we need to support it, definitely. Great points.
Well, if you're out there running a business and you do need a hand, of course, you can reach out to Nick, Marty, and myself. But if something touched a nerve there where Marty talked about stress, anxiety, depression, Beyond Blue do have a fantastic support area for business owners specifically. So if you do need a hand, definitely jump onto Beyond Blue or seek some additional support. Again, us three guys love to be there to support any small business owner that needs to, just discuss where they're at, how they're going, and if any way it does lead to us being able to support you guys from an innovate or future advisory point of view. That is what we're here for, and it's one of the reasons we created this podcast, is to share value with the small business community and try and uplift. And after 130 plus episodes of probably sounding like we complain about small business a lot, we are here because we do love what we do and we do love the small business community we work with. So thank you for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you, and even if you're not a small business owner and you're supporting a small business owner by working with them to help them achieve their goals, you are a bloody legend too. Like the show, share with your friends, 5-star review, get around us guys and give us a like or follow on all of the socials. And until next time,
let's get down to business. Game over.